Taehyung doesn't notice how he takes a shaky deep breath as the neon lights gives him a view of a young and too innocent for this place body. He looks at the tightened abdomen muscles and the way the shadows play on the thin collarbones. And then his eyes fall on the belt fastened around this bare waist. And Taehyung can't stop himself, in the next second already imagining how this boy, while baby Cookie is wearing nothing but these very straps. The boy continues to tease the audience by turning his back on them and shaking his butt a little. Taehyung looks at the curves and shorts that are too short, too good even for all those wallets that came here to pay him. Taehyung suddenly realizes how much he wants to touch him right now. He wonders if he saw this kid when the administrator introduced him to the dancers. But he's sure he would remember him. Because this boy looks like everything Taehyung could ever want in his bed. And baby Cookie, meanwhile, is already taking off his jacket and falling to his knees, while Britney sings out the words "I'm a slave for you," making the image of a boy even dirtier than it is. He continues to tease the men. The boy's skin is smooth and clear there, and Taehyung's jaw is clenched. This boy is just perfect. And he wants him. As soon as possible. Taehyung thinks you should get to know him better tonight. The young boy, still dancing, is already collecting money in his shorts, and Taehyung, sipping whiskey. And the only one baby Cookie allows to do so. The boy, still not fully undressed, luckily or disappointingly for Mr. Kim, ends the performance. And, having collected some more money when he walks between the tables, he hides in the depths of the club, throwing his jacket over his shoulder. Taehyung thinks about how the boy laughed flirty while making eye contact with men as he walked between tables, and the thought of how high his moans must sound wraps round his mind against his will. Taehyung hadn't wanted anyone as much as this boy for too long. Having finished his whiskey, the man waits until two girls appear on the stage to perform together, and, going downstairs, he walks through the hall with an imposing step. He spots Yoongi the manager standing nearby, who nods to him as the man walks past one of the tables. "Good evening," he smiles charmingly, nodding at the two men at the table, who look up at him. "Mr. Kim Taehyung, the new owner of the place," he explains, and the men instantly relax and become more welcoming. They nod to him and take turns holding out their hands for a handshake, and then introduce themselves. Taehyung now understands why Yoongi nodded at them. One of the men is a senator, the other, whose name Taehyung did not know, must also be someone from Congress. Taehyung intends to clarify this with Yoongi later, but for now he continues on his way, wishing them a good rest. He meets a few more guests that Yoongi points out to him and finally makes it to the hallway. Without further explanation to the administrator or anyone else, the man goes straight to the dressing rooms, intending to find the baby there. He notices two guys in stage costumes walking past him, nodding and smiling charmingly at him. He gives them a nod before he enters the dressing room. Several girls who have been sitting at the mirror before now immediately pay attention to him. "Mr. Kim." One of them smiles charmingly, while the other just sends him a meaningful look. "How do you like the show?" "Wonderful," he nods at them, deciding to keep quiet about the fact that one of their colleagues even made him get a little hard. "I definitely like it." "Then you should definitely watch my performance, Mr. Kim," one of them coos, leaning on her table. But how is Taehyung supposed to tell her that he's not interested in her person in the slightest? "Yeah, I think I cannot avoid it, my dear," the man grins, and then looks around the dressing room. There are far fewer people here than there were earlier in the evening, when he got to meet them. But his eyes instantly stumbled upon the young boy, slightly flushed and sweaty, who is lounging on the couch at the end of the room, buried in his phone and sipping cold water from a plastic cup which has already appeared in condensation. Tae-hyung narrows his eyes a little, thinking that his face looks familiar until a smirk touches his lips. Is this the same kid he ran into this afternoon when he went to the office to meet his lawyer? Can't be. The joke from the universe, is it? Nodding to the girls, he moves on. The man stops in front of the couch, hides his hands in the pockets of his trousers, scanning the boy with a closer look and a grin on his lips. A lot closer. He's still wearing his short shorts and belts, and his jacket is neatly folded on the edge of the couch. Good evening. His hoarse voice breaks the silence and grabs the boy's attention. The kid looks up from his phone, frowning a little, and looks the man up and down. Sorry, guess you're not allowed to be here, he replies modestly and then looks down at his phone again. What a soft voice, Tae-hyung thinks, grinning a little harder. He wants to hear that soft voice begging him for more. Preferably today. I'm not a guest, the man replies with a chuckle. Tae-hyung, he nods, not even taking his hands out of his pockets to shake the boy's hand. I'm the new owner. Oh, Jungkook is only surprised for a few seconds, but he doesn't take his eyes off his phone. Welcome, Mr. Kim. Tae-hyung, he shrugs. I hope you won't be disappointed with your purchase. Not a bit, he remarks in a low voice, and Jungkook looks at him again, raising an eyebrow. Pardon me, you got some great moves. Yeah, Jungkook nods shyly, unable to look him in the eye for long. I think that's what they pay me for. Witty. Tae-hyung leans down, resting one hand on the back of the couch, and with fingertips of the other one touches the boy's bangs, straightening it. The boy shudders a little under his touch and at such closeness. You doing, Mr. Kim? And you're not as talkative as you were this afternoon. What do you remember how rude you were when you ran into me on the street today? Tae-hyung smirks, continuing to finger the tip of the boy's bangs, and Jungkook frowns, uncomprehending for the first few seconds, and then fear flickers in his eyes. Oh, Mr. Kim. That's not. I didn't mean to. The man smiles, slowly sliding his fingertips down to his cheek. I'm sure you don't have to apologize. Unless, you can tell me your name to make it up to you. The real one, I mean. Why would I want to know how to address you? Unless you prefer baby cooking instead, of course. Jungkook. My name is Jungkook. Jungkook. Tae-hyung repeats, as if he's tasting it. His voice is low and slightly husky, and Jungkook is almost trembling because the man is so close. You dance so good. And I'm glad you don't undress all the way. The man nods, stroking the velvety skin of the boy's cheek. They all do not deserve to see her body, do they? Sorry, why are you talking about? I told you. Tae-hyung shakes his head as his thumb touches Jungkook's bottom lip. Be a good boy, start asking fewer questions. I just say what I think. You are worth little more than just in front of them. I don't understand you, Mr. Kim. Jungkook stutters a little as the man's green eyes scan his face intently. The man strokes Jungkook's lip weightlessly, biting his own for a second as he sees how glitter suits you. Tae-hyung decides to say instead of explaining, noticing the makeup on the boy's eyelids. Thanks, I'd like. The man swallows, lips, and for a second his gaze flickers back to the boy's lips. To get to know you better. In private. In my office. Jungkook's eyes widen and his brows rise in surprise as the man's heavy hand still touches his face. Something unpleasantly becomes heavier in the stomach. Sorry, Tae smirks, already about to answer, but he is interrupted by a male voice from behind him. Jungkook, he calls, causing the boy to jump up and peek behind Tae to look at Yoongi standing in the doorway with his tablet. Private dance. Room 6. Jungkook nods nervously, breathing heavily, and sees Yoongi now address one of the dancers, inviting her on stage. Excuse me, Jungkook mutters softly, pulling himself out from under Tae who is still looming over him. To work. Excuse me, he somehow gets off the couch as Tae straightens up, hands in his trousers pockets. The man watches intently as Jungkook grabs his jacket off the couch with trembling hands, hurriedly pulling it on as he checks the fastening of his shorts at the hip. Hey, Tae grabs the boy's elbow as he's about to leave, and Jungkook turns around in fear, looking at how huge the man's hand feels when he touches it. I said I want to see you in my office, and I said I have to work, Mr. Kim. Jungkook, crushing again under the piercing and confident gaze, looks down at the floor. Excuse me. Now I have to go and undress in front of one of your guests who you said doesn't deserve it, he mutters, letting out a mirthless chuckle, and timidly pulling his elbow out of the man's grip. Jungkook flees the dressing room, leaving Tae alone,